Okay, so first part of the year, yeah, even under the 10, but I think it's the sun that reflects off the cliff.
Are you for a resolution or something else?
Andy.
You're for Andy.
Arts Advisory Board.
Arts Advisory, so when we get to that.
My
Okay.
wife, Chris Burns. I'll be joining Chris Burns.
Naomi Camilleri is planning on being here. She's got a video class. She has this item communications special. So, Naomi.
Okay, so it's a new version, it's not a resolution.
It's just me. Oh, yeah. The part of the end. We are live on YouTube, so. Microphone.
Ready?
Yeah, that's.
He's doing, oh, he wants to do it. He wants to do it on Friday now, not see it? Instead of Saturday?
It's from Memorial Park.
Yeah, it's a Friday, not a Saturday. I thought he wanted a Saturday. I'm only asking because it's in the event guide as a Saturday.
I can double check.
I'm sure.
Well, I mean, he should do whatever he wants to do.
Makes more sense than Saturdays. I may have.
Okay, I thought he wanted a, well, maybe he did want a Friday, because you put Friday, you didn't just put the date, you put Friday.
Yeah, I might have messed up.
Okay, are we ready?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this Village Board of Meeting, Village Board of Trustees meeting. Please join me in the saying of our pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. It is June 5th, 2025 at 7:30 p.m. This is a regular meeting of the Village Board of Trustees. At the beginning of every meeting, we usually share a few remarks. Usually it's about events coming up or congratulating people for something that they might have done. Today, I think what we have to talk about is just to acknowledge the difficult week we have had, and to recognize a few people for some of the extraordinary work that they did in response to that difficult week. As you all know, we had two fires on the same day, in the same hour, on Tuesday morning, late morning, early afternoon, that affected 3 apartments in a building on Gedney, and then affected an entire building with about a dozen apartments in Nyack Plaza. The Nyack Plaza fire was very serious. The structure's been very damaged. Luckily, nobody was killed. There were no overnight hospitalizations for anybody who was hurt. But we have about a dozen families who are now not able to return to their homes. Many of them have lost a significant number of their belongings. That, in fact, is why my colleague, Trustee Donna Lightfoot Cooper, is not here tonight. She is actually helping the families with their moving into a hotel. They were in a hotel for the last 2 nights, provided by the village. They're now staying in a hotel, which is being paid for by the donations that have been made, over $75,000 worth of donations made by by everybody, to go toward help these people who have been dispossessed from their homes, and we're very grateful for that. So I did want to say, just to say a few things. This was in a newsletter that went out, but I want to make sure we put it on the record of our gratitude for some of the extraordinary work that was done this week. And it starts with the firefighters who came and used their expertise to reduce the damage as much as possible, as well as ensure there was no loss of life. We had all the companies of the Nyack Fire Department present, and we just can't thank them enough. There just simply are no words to express how grateful we are for the work that's done by these volunteers every day, but particularly on a day like Tuesday. We also were joined by, from what we believe to be 17 different volunteer fire departments who responded. And so I want to name all of them for the record to thank them as well. And we'll be sending letters to those departments from the village. Make sure I get the letters out in a timely fashion. Letters to all those departments to thank them for their contributions. And that's Haverstraw, Hillcrest, Muncie, Nanuet, Orangetown, Pearl River, Piermont, Sloatsburg, Sparkhill, Tapan, Valley Cottage, West Haverstraw, West Nyack, Fields, and Tarrytown. I was shocked on Tuesday to see a fire truck from Tarrytown. Also, thanks to our police department and the EMS volunteers, the first responders who were there for their quick and compassionate responses. That we are so lucky to have another group of volunteers with the EMS and the professionals at the Orangetown Police Department who did such an able job of controlling the scene and making sure there was somebody who was injured during the woman who fell. The EMS was able to get her out and get her treated. I also want to thank some people who really stepped up during the day. Bill Batson, who is here, my thanks to him. He was there all day with us, helping us organize a call list for all the people who were affected. We didn't know who was living in the units at the beginning of the afternoon, and we compiled a full list on a board with the information that came in person by person, and Bill helped with that. And also, I have to acknowledge the incredible work that was done that day and in the days since by Nicole Hines, who's the executive director of President. Is this working?
Yeah.
Now it's not? I can talk loud enough. Okay, was it off full time?
That was on.
Was on? Nicole Hines did extraordinary work on Tuesday. She was the one who really was going person by person, unit by unit, identifying them, getting us phone numbers. We were then calling them to let them know that we were at the senior center so they could come and get the help that we were able to provide at that time, as well as start gathering their information. And also when we got the hotel rooms, we handed out keys there. And the first step of that was identifying who the people were. And that was what she did all day long. And then as we got all the people, she transitioned to taking care of them and ensuring that they had what they needed, and really just guiding the whole process. And in the days since, she's really been leading that group of people through the process of now moving to a new hotel and raising money. She has done a GoFundMe that's raised $75,000 and has been distributing all the items and the food and whatnot that has been needed. So our thanks to her. I want to thank Kim Cross of the Nyack Center, who put together a meal on short notice with the Pride, Rockland Pride on Tuesday night. Kim was around all day as well, helping out, and she's been helping out since in collecting items for the affected people. Also, on another different level, Red Cross and the Department of Social Services, Red Cross was on site within an hour and a half. And by that night had really started the process. They weren't able to put people up, but they had, by the next morning, they had vouchers with $600 on them for each of the individuals involved. And we're very grateful for their quick response. We're grateful to the Department of Social Services for their work that they were, by the next day, Wednesday, we'd set up in the senior center. And they were both there, as was Stephen Pappas from the United Way, set up there doing intake, getting all the information. Stephen literally getting shoe sizes and clothing sizes for everybody so that when people give clothing, they can give in the appropriate sizes. I want to thank people from Diane Senator, People to People, Chrissy Bertone, St. Anne's Food Cupboard for making donations. I want to thank County Executive Ed Day, whose Deputy County Executive Mike Hovland was on site within about an hour and a half and helped us out in a number of ways. Town Supervisor Teresa Kenny, who reached out with her support. County Legislator Beth Davidson, who was on the phone with me constantly, directing me to the people I needed to talk to. I want to thank all the members of the village board who were instrumental in helping us through the day up here with me right now. Local businesses, Fresh Market provided water, Gatorade, sandwiches. Strawberry Place has offered free meals to all the affected families. Grace Church has opened their doors and let people come in and pick up whatever they want. And finally, the village staff, Andy Stewart, Anne Marie Tilsty, Rosa Martinez, were on site doing incredible work all day, facilitating getting all these people taken care of. Also, my thanks to the Nyack Plaza community, who really pulled together for each other that day. You could see them all outside all day long, comforting each other, doing what they could for each other. And then finally, my deep gratitude toward the families themselves who have weathered this incredibly difficult situation with grace and with patience, and with a steadfast resolve to get through it. And who have been, what they've gone through is, the nightmare that we all never want to have to live through, and they have lived through it, and they're coming out the other side. And we're all very grateful to them for the way that they've handled this. So very happy that we didn't lose anybody. Very grateful for everybody that contributed to making a very difficult day coming together and making what we could of it. So I'll leave it there. And if anybody else wants to say some words, I'll leave that one to.
I just want to thank the mayor, Joe Rand, for coordinating everything, for putting all of these plans and getting all these people together. And good job, kudos.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Joe, for all the work that you've been doing. And as always, Nyack really does take care of its own. So it's really nice to see everyone stepping up and chipping in. I do know that the Upper Nyack PTA is also getting ready to donate things as well. So you should thank them for that. Just really shows that we always come together during times like this.
And I would be remiss if I didn't recognize the bishop. I'm sorry, I'm blanking his name. That they had everybody there today. They were doing distribution at Bishop Springfield, at their church today. That's where we were dropping off. At St. John's. Okay, that's where they were. And they did a wonderful job getting everybody together in very nicely air-conditioned rooms in a very hot day to take care of everybody. I'm grateful to them as well. And one person I also want to specifically mention was Louise Parker, and the Parker family, who endured a loss this week. With Louise and Minerva Parker lost a sister. Minerva's on the Housing Authority. Louise is former deputy mayor. They lost a sister this week, and she was in one of the units that she was before this that she passed, but that was one of her units, and her family was then had to endure this challenge. And Louise was all over on Tuesday, gathering information, consoling people, doing what she does. So we're very grateful to her and her continued service to this community. All right. With that all said, my thanks again to everybody involved, and we're going to continue to look out for those people who were affected, and we'll continue to try to. We don't want them spending a night on a cot. That's the thing, and so we're going to try to find ways that they do not have to spend the night on a cot. Changing. If I may change subject now, I did want to recognize and congratulate my colleague, Deputy Mayor Pascal Jean-Gilles, who was recognized by her alma mater. And I don't have it in front of me, but the alma mater is
Mercy College.
Mercy College.
Yeah.
She's recognized as a distinguished alumnus, and there's going to be some event, right, where you get recognized, or is it just
No, it's tomorrow. Yeah.
tomorrow? She's being recognized tomorrow as a distinguished alumni, and it's a well-deserved honor that she's receiving. So we want to make sure we mention that. You have to mention when one of your own gets an honor like that. We got to say yes, you're right. All right, with that all said, we have anybody signed up for public comment yet? We'll take public comments on any topic. Nobody signed up. There'll be another opportunity for public comment later, and we have a very relatively quick agenda to get through, so there'll be a public comment later. Also, you can make public comments on any agenda item when we are talking about that agenda item. So can I first,
Hold on 1 second.
yes.
I was wondering if you could call Naomi Camilleri, she has an event.
Oh, okay, just take it now?
Yeah.
Sure, come on,
Before we do
come on.
that, I do just wanna. So I do just wanna make one quick announcement, for anyone who didn't see it on Facebook already, the African American Day Parade is postponed until
Yes.
next week due to weather, so I just wanted to make sure everybody on the board. If I didn't send you anything, I'm sorry, but it is being postponed for the rain date.
Yes, and so the rain dates, it's next Saturday. And since we're shifting over to events, I want to wish everybody a happy Pride Day on Sunday. There will be a Pride Parade starting, I think, at 11 o'clock, but check that online. And then the whole day will be a street fair celebrating our community here in Nyack. We're very grateful for the work that Brooke Malloy and Rockland Pride has put into that. And also on Sunday morning, and this is something that's gonna be the subject of a special newsletter going out tomorrow. There is a firefighter parade on Sunday morning at 8:30. And usually this goes off because it goes off early in the morning and they rarely even advertise that they're doing it, so people don't know about it. But people are gonna know about it this weekend, and I would love to see, for all the people here and all the people watching, the three of you watching on YouTube, but we'll get the newsletter out to the few thousand people that are subscribed to the newsletter. Come out on Monday morning. Come out at 8:30.
Sunday.
Oh, I'm sorry, not Monday morning. Come out Sunday morning. You can then come out again on Monday morning if you wish and have breakfast, but on Sunday morning is the parade. Come out, we can line up right here on Broadway, right up on Main. They go right up Main all the way to Midland. And then I forget where they make a turn, but the main body of it is here. And then when they're done, there's a memorial service for their fallen brethren at the cemetery, Oak Hill Cemetery. You're welcome to watch the parade. You're welcome to come to the ceremony. The ceremony is a bit more is very it's a morning ceremony. So that's the appropriate tone for that. But the parade is a parade, so come and cheer for the firefighters. This is an appropriate day for a firefighter parade on Sunday. And it would be really wonderful if the community came out Sunday morning and really showed these volunteer firefighters how much we appreciate what they do. So I'm gonna be flogging that for the next 2 days until we get people out on Sunday.
It starts at 8:30?
Hold on, let me get the actual, I will let you know in a second. So,
All right,
yes,
while Mary is looking for that, since we're doing events, there is an event tomorrow from Everytown for New York, for the Rockland Westchester, where orange bridge lighting event for being done. Supposedly, it's supposed to be happening at Memorial Park. Now, I believe if it does rain, they're gonna shift gears and go to Angel Nyack. So at 6:30 tomorrow at the park, as long as the weather holds up, it will be the Moms Demand Action against gun violence. And wear orange, and the bridge is supposed to light up orange on tomorrow evening at 6:30. If it does rain, it'll be at Angel Nyack.
okay, thank you for that. Yeah, that's another, there's a ton of events going on. Tomorrow we're releasing actually a summer event guide, which is a print publication that will be coming out, which will have all the events from basically tomorrow through Labor Day in it. And we'll be putting that up online, and printed copies should be available by the weekend and start to get distributed at the parade on Sunday. The firefighter parade does start at 9 o'clock. So you can start lining up. I have to be there at 8:30. That's why I was thinking 8:30, 9 o'clock. And it will start on New Street, come down, and it'll be right here coming down Broadway and then going up on Main. And so please come out. It would be really lovely to have a big crowd cheering our firefighters when they do that on Sunday morning. It's really quite a sight to see them with the trucks and everything else as they go down Main Street. It's something they've been doing for like 100 years. This is a long tradition, that they've done it. All right, with that said, we had no public comment. We wanted to bring up the young woman who had the, event that she wanted to do. Yes.
Do I have to speak?
Yes, please. And say your name, when you start.
Hi, I am Naomi Camilleri. Nice to meet you all. I'm native of Rockland. And I own Playful Yogi Space at 42 Main Street. We are a full service yoga studio, been there since 2019. And I would like to propose a Rockland Yoga Festival in Memorial Park in August 23rd. As for on the application, Mandy. If you're not into yoga, you might not know this, but Nyack has a very special place in yoga's history in the US. If you've never seen this book, I highly recommend it, The Great Boom. This is about a man named Pierre Bernard. That was a name he chose for himself. He's quite a character. But he really started yoga in a lot of ways. A lot of people brought yoga to the US, but he was American, but he was trained by a master, and he became a master himself. And at the height of his mastery and legacy, the entire former Nyack College property was his. He was at one time the greatest landowner, the largest landowner in Nyack. He had property there, he had property in Upper Nyack, he had property all over. He had circus animals, he had a baseball team, he had an airport. He was a very, very interesting character. But more than that, he started yoga here in Nyack and on the East Coast. And so Nyack has a special place in yoga history here in the US. I would love to honor that, but even more so, bring all the yoga studios in Rockland together and yoga entrepreneurs. We've got wonderful people who teach yoga, kinds of different types of yoga, kids yoga. And so what I propose is a day in Memorial Park, hopefully weather cooperating, yoga classes. We have some vendors that are yoga affiliated, so practitioners who offer health and wellness techniques, Reiki, sound healing, other kinds of vendors. Maybe we could have some food trucks. No loud music. Yoga's pretty quiet. Maybe we end with like a sound healing, the sound bath type thing, or a drum circle or something. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Do you want to do this on the upper level or the lower level?
On the lower level, if
And
possible.
how much of the lower level do you think you're gonna need?
Well, I'm hoping we get a good crowd, but I would say maybe half of it. I don't know. Just throw that out there.
And it's free.
Yes,
free event?
free to the public, yes.
Okay.
How long is it for?
It's all, I mean, I have it marked at 9 AM to 5 PM is what I have in the event guide.
Oh, you had that.
I have it,
Okay.
I have it on the wrong date though, so you
Uh-oh.
must have proposed for the 16th
You
originally.
did originally, but then it was.
This is the problem with putting August events in my event guide, is that the August events
Yeah.
shift around.
Well, I was told that if the basketball tournament was rained up, then they'd be playing basketball that day, and it just didn't seem.
It does say rain date August 23rd, and it does give the link to the website, so
Okay,
people will
great.
hopefully look it up.
Um,
But I think I think it's a lovely idea. I'll let the other trustees weigh in. As long as it doesn't exclude people, and you say you need half the park, you may not need half the park, because you really need space for a couple of vendors, and other than that, people are just gonna be doing yoga classes and things like that,
yeah,
right? So
essentially,
it'll
yeah.
be spread out a little bit.
It won't be a huge space. I mean, I really don't know how many people will get to come this first time. I'm hoping it becomes an annual event. I am connected to the Hudson Valley Yoga Teachers Association, and so I hope we draw people from throughout the Hudson Valley and Bergen County. Next to a lot of people do yoga there. So it could be a really great attraction for bringing people to Nyack and just, spreading the love of yoga. I think it probably won't go till 5 because I was told by Andy that there is a wedding that needs to set up, so I'm thinking we probably would wrap it up by 4 at the latest.
And you'll be starting at 9 o'clock, bright and early?
Yeah, at least
Yoga's
it's
an early
set up.
thing, so-
Yeah,
yeah.
and also it's August, so it's gonna be hot, so I was thinking maybe earlier is better. So it might end up being more like 9 to 3 as we develop we'll have more of an idea.
Any other comments?
I'm okay with it.
I have no objections.
Yeah, yoga's good stuff.
All right, so let's get a resolution on the next, you sure you don't wanna do it on the 16th? Just because I
don't have an objection to the 16th.
No, do it the day you wanna do it, I'm just teasing.
No, it was really, honestly, that was fine. It was,
Well, I
do we think that the basketball tournament might be
No,
happening?
do it on the day you wanna do it.
Yeah.
Do it on your day.
Yeah, I saw that there was a Riverton Film Club on the 16th at 6:30. That's
That's also been scheduled, yeah, we have,
That's the 15th.
that's the
I wouldn't do it on
15th is Rivertown Film?
Yeah,
You
Yes,
know
it is on
what's
Friday,
basketball.
not Saturday.
right.
Okay,
Yeah, I
so
just think
change-
that there might be like conflict with.
Yeah, I
Just
wouldn't.
noise and
All
stuff.
right, now stick to your date, I'm just teasing you. All right, so we're gonna give a resolution at the next meeting, to approve this, okay? Thank you for proposing it, good luck with it.
Can I go ahead and do I have to wait for the official?
I would, you can start getting the word out, sure.
Cause I also need to reach out to other yoga entrepreneurs and studios and make gather people with this.
I think it's safe to say.
Time flies, yeah.
This doesn't seem relatively controversial unless Donna comes in next week and is breathing fire about, how could we possibly let, I bet she's not, so it's gonna be fine.
Probably not.
Thank you very
I wanna
much.
go. All right, thank you. We have anything else we wanna move up, other than get through the rest? We have some people here for the Public Arts Advisory Board. Why don't we just get through the resolutions that are, actually, first thing I have to do is the adoption of the minutes. Can I get a motion to adopt the minutes?
Motion.
second. I wasn't here, so I don't know.
You just can't vote on it. Do we have any changes for the minutes?
No.
All in favor of adopting the minutes as proposed?
Aye. Oh, you weren't here either, Natalie?
You weren't here either? No.
Oh, so we can't vote.
We can't vote.
Yeah, no,
on
we
three.
can't vote on it.
All right. I forgot we only did three, it was three of us last time. All right. So let's do the action items. 6.1, resolution 25-92, accepting the audit voucher summary. Can I get it on the table?
Second.
Any comments or questions?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion, and all opposed? Motion passes. 6.2, resolution 25-93, approving a wedding in Memorial Park. Can I get this on the table?
Motion.
Second.
Any comments or questions about the wedding involving Ms. Goodwin and Mr. Brown?
I do actually.
Okay,
On principle, I am objecting to it because it sets a major precedent for use of the gazebo for a private event, 2 hours, and I don't think the village should do this. I'm just, I don't know, I wasn't here at last meeting, and so I don't know, you probably discussed it. And so since I wasn't here, I'm going to either abstain or vote against it. It's basically, it's not that I don't want them to get married, at the gazebo, that's not fine. But I think it's a village property used for a private event, excluding, and I think all other people from the park, from the gazebo area. And it's gonna take it's 2 hours, so they need to come in and set up. And I don't think that the village should be involved with this. So unless I'm wrong, unless you could.
well, I would disagree with you on that. I think that I think this is you are correct that we have traditionally not allowed weddings for the reasons you described. One of the things that has happened in the last few years is that there's a group of merchants that are working, particularly led by Susan Wilming, to try to make Nyack a destination wedding location, that people bring their weddings here. And one of the things that we've talked about is the fact that we do have a lovely place for people to get married. We actually have 2 locations really down by the waterfront that are really beautiful places to get married. That could be the centerpiece of a very nice wedding that would bring business to the downtown. And so we've talked about sort of setting up the procedures. I think the problem that you've put your finger on is the fact that we've been lax in establishing
a policy?
a policy and process, and we're working on that. There's a memo in the file, there's a memo in the packet, right? That Andy wrote that was based on a collaboration with me and him and Dennis about criteria that we would use to approve events. And in my mind, I agree with you. I don't like having an event that exclude. It's a small exclusion for a small part of the park. So I can live with it for a period of time. But it's something we have to, I think we gotta be conscious of for the reasons you described it.
I do also just want to point out that, we allow baby showers, we allow birthdays also in the park, and those are private events. So I don't know, I understand a wedding is a little bit more grandiose, but if we allow those events, then why are we drawing the line at a wedding? If we're allowing baby showers and other people to have parties, we allow churches to use the event space as well. And so long as they're not taking up the entire use of the park, it's not exclusive use, there is space that people can use, like the pier or the grass area, that doesn't get excluded, so I just want to point that out. And then another thing as well is, like other parks, including the Hook Mountain, you can rent their space, like the top level, if you want to have a private event. So those might be some other considerations we want to put in for things like that, but I do want to say we do allow people to use portions of the park for private space already for other events.
What can we approve this, but this is as, to make it as an exception in pending a policy of the village with regard to these type of events?
I think we can note that in the minutes, that if we're agreeing on that we need to establish a policy to make sure that we're not approving, we have to limit the number of weddings, we have to cap them at a certain point. Because we don't want the space being used every weekend. Saturday and Sunday and 2 weddings back to back and things like that. It's not a wedding venue. But it is nice to allow people to get married. It's a nice thing for that. People, I mean, when you say it excludes people, I'll be honest, the general reaction people have when they're in the park and they see someone getting married
Oh my God.
is they watch it, isn't that cute? I mean, it's not considered to be it's an offense to people, generally speaking. But your point is very well taken, that it is something that we have to, we approach with some trepidation. Can I change one thing in the resolution? I'd like to make a motion just to change it to wedding ceremony. Because wedding implies that they're having the cake and the whole thing down there, and they're not. Is everybody okay with that?
Okay with that.
Is there any motion all in favor of the changing it to that?
Alright.
No, let's.
All right, so we don't have to do a special, just change it to wedding ceremony in both the title and in the, it doesn't change anything dramatically.
Thank you.
All right.
And it could also be noted that this is this is not a precedent, or this is just pending a village policy regarding, so I just want to make it clear that people that read this, they see that it is not a
All right,
functionary type of approval.
I'm gonna suggest this, adding to the end of we're after 6:30 PM. With the understanding that the village is going to establish a policy governing the issuance of permits for private events
In the future.
in the near future. That's a
I can live with that, yeah.
Okay. Everybody else okay with that?
Mhm.
All right, so I amended to say that as well. There's a lot of time on the wedding. I didn't think the wedding was gonna take this long. That's what I said it during my own wedding.
It might be pictures and all that other stuff. I don't think it's a ceremony.
I mean, it could be
No,
just
the-
set up and break.
The 2 hours is the breakdown and setup. Yeah, they want to put the flowers on and everything like that, which is fine. All right, okay, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 6.3, resolution 25-94. Approving a license agreement with Rivertowns SUP and Yoga LLC to conduct business from the Nyack Marina. Can I get this on the table?
Second.
This is something else that we discussed. It might have been at the last meeting that they are going to be, it's an agreement that's patterned on the agreement that we have with Nyack Boat Charter. And what they do is they do, stand paddle boards and they do yoga on the paddle boards. Is she still here? They do yoga on the paddle boards, a yoga themed meeting today. Namaste. All right, any comments or questions on it?
No.
All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 6.4, resolution 25-95 to approve a permit for an event in Memorial Park. Can I get this on the table?
Motion.
Second.
This is to approve the use of the upper lawn by Craig Smith of the Phoenix Festival for some performances in the Phoenix Festival on October 13th. These are going to be, I believe, free events, a free performance in the park. Theater in the park, which is wonderful. Any comments or questions? And I want to thank Craig for all the work he does for the Phoenix Festival. He's really tremendous, and he and his wife do unbelievable work to put that together. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. 6.5, resolution 25-96. A resolution to approve a block party street closure on Summit Street. Can I get it on the table?
Second.
Any conversation? Any comment? Any question?
Are we invited?
We're always invited. We are always invited to the block parties. All right, if there's no other comments or questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. 6.6, resolution. Let's skip this one because we're gonna talk about it in the public hearing, which has to start after 8 o'clock, so we'll get to it when we get done with some of the new business. 6.7, resolution 25-98. A resolution where we have received to deny a 40+ person park permit for an event in Memorial Park. Can I get this on the table?
Motion.
Second. All right, we did receive an application from a day camp to bring 70 children to use the Memorial Park, to use the splash pad, the playground, and the waterfront picnic tables for a 3-hour period on July 24th. This is what's led to us working on some criteria for large groups. Dennis, do you want to talk about some of the whereases and the resolution here? Because I know you worked on it. You want to talk about it? I can just talk about it.
The application,
We're denying the application.
I think Andy.
All right, Andy, you want to talk about?
The facts, I know the law.
Okay.
So the village
Okay,
Village code has policy for the permitting of group use. Any group more than 10 people requires a permit. More than 40, it must go to the village board for review. So that's, and the code speaks to questions of the impact on public access more generally, the sort of scheduling around other things. And the principles are sort of elucidated a little bit there, but not as much detail as we'd like. But this, a 70-person group, in my view, and I think most of these part of you would overwhelm the capacity on these elements for children, which is the playground, the splash pad, tables. It would effectively monopolize that space from the general public's access during the period when 70 people.
And it's a heavy use time. It's a busy time in the park as it is. One of the concerns I had is that I had a reaction to the idea that people who are running a day camp, which presumably charges for the use of the day camp, that the day camp is then essentially selling access to Memorial Park, which that was a problem for me. We've had, and if we allowed day camps to be able to use Memorial Park, we would get 20 more applications to do this and would be used every day for Memorial Park because it's basically free outdoor space. So every camp that wants to do outdoor space, they can always go to Rockland Lake, that's available. They can always, there's parks in every of the towns that maybe are better set up for this, but Memorial Park is not particularly big and it does get heavy use from people from the entire county during summer days. And so I don't think allowing a camp to bring 70 kids to use the splash pad, playground, and waterfront picnic tables is a good use of the park. Is a proper use of the park.
Just want to know, we have another application in the pipeline for 250 people.
Okay.
Yeah, camp.
Same.
Some kind of program, not sure exactly the nature of it. So it's just, it begs the question of how to balance the public interest in general access with it.
We generally do not allow events that charge for access to the park. And this is what this basically is. That's my problem.
I did have a good conversation with the sponsor of this permit. And, you know, she was, I wanted, we gave her the courtesy of letting her know that it was likely the board was gonna just decide to deny. And, you know, she wished it were otherwise. We talked a little bit about the other options, larger parks, places like Rockland Lake, where you can roll in your buses. Other state parks, town parks that we mentioned there. And so, I mean, there really are other options, there are other places to go that are big enough to really take a large group. And we've seen, you know, Lake Welch on a weekend, you know, there's thousands of people, it has an enormous capacity. And it's a great place to go.
And because it's a request for more than 40 people, we want to put in the record of the denial, because we have to approve requests of more than, we don't usually do a denial by resolution, but because it's a large group of people, we want to do it by resolution. So that's why this is in there today. Any other comments or questions?
I 100% agree with what you said, Joe. Well,
Yeah, I think this honestly speaks to even just the previous conversation, you know, drawing those fine lines in our laws to make sure that, you know, we can honor small groups, you know, not the entire usage of the park, just like small portions of it versus this is very, very large. It's insane to hear that another group wanted 250 kids. I mean, we don't see that many people there unless it's like 4th of July, so that's, you know, that's insane, so, yeah.
All right,
I'm actually kind of happy that they asked for permission.
so they asked,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right.
There was
respect
years that they did.
Yeah, that's, yeah, and then,
Groups have come in without asking and just
right.
dump tons of kids into the park.
Yeah.
That really isn't right. All right, if there's no other further comment or question, all in favor of the denial? Motion carries unanimously. 6.8, resolution 25-99, a resolution approving the implementation of an agreement with the YMCA to provide basketball programming to Nyack youth. Can I get it on the table?
Motion.
Second,
So this is a $25,000 grant. This is the old grant that we had, that we're now putting to use as the new one. It's an old grant. And so tell us what they're gonna do here.
So their proposal, our funder, has agreed provisionally anyway, when we submit the paperwork, we'll find out for sure, to fund basketball. The YMCA has expertise in basketball for all the different ages of youth. They have an existing summer camp program with intensive basketball during the day. And so they're offering free tuition to Nyack youth using our money to cover that cost. So that's for starters. They have the capacity to take X number of more people per camp session. And then we'd also talked about how nice it would be if there was something in the park, just so you could just kind of show up for. And so that's the other program. It's on Thursday evenings. Hopefully, you know, after the sun goes down, it starts to go down a little bit, it'll be a little cooler. You know, obviously the camp in the heat of the summer, they need air conditioning in the gym. But in the park, in the early evenings, they're excited about providing a drop-in basketball experience. Any age, show up, have some skill building, have some light sort of pickup games, however they manage it, that's what they do. And I think it'll be a nice thing for the kids and families to show up for that.
And just to clarify, this is all coming from a grant, not, doesn't have anything to do with the money that we've set aside as part of it from the county's tax for recreation,
Right.
separate from that. This is just an additional
I
grant.
remember we were jammed up, we were trying to get this money out the door, working with another basketball provider that was unsuccessful. There was a youth football group that was unsuccessful in meeting the requirements that the funder has. So I wanted to bring back those words so you knew.
We're gonna use it or lose it. This is one way to use it.
Yeah, I hope we haven't lost it. I'm pretty sure we have.
Okay. Any comments or questions?
I'm assuming the Y is monitoring those evening sessions, they're gonna have,
Yeah,
They used to have coaches, yeah, they're running the program.
yeah, it's not just a pickup game at Thursday nights, like they're actually there.
right, okay.
Well, I'm actually really excited as a mom of 3 boys that play basketball year round.
That's great.
So this is kind of exciting that they can have pickup games because that means they're out of my house. So they'll be out in the streets, which I actually appreciate. So thank you for this.
All right, good. Any other comments or questions? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. 6.9, resolution 25-100. To schedule a public hearing to consider a local law to place a stop sign on Bird Street at River Street. Can I get this on the table?
Motion.
Second.
This is the request that's come up a number of times from people that live down by the marina to put a stop sign as you come out of the marina and get on Bird and you make a left, you cross River, there's no stop sign there. There's a stop sign if you are on River going into Bird, there's a stop sign coming east on Bird, crossing River, but there was never a stop sign going west on Bird as you cross River. So this will be a third stop sign on a three-way stop. It makes complete sense. We should have done it a long time ago. I'm glad we're doing it now. So that's it. Any comments or questions on this?
I know we have a lot of stop signs that have been coming up. We given thought into doing a more comprehensive like traffic study just to evaluate that we're putting things in the right spot. Maybe it's not a stop sign, maybe it's a different, like a speed bump, I don't know.
We did, that was actually, okay, yeah, he's gonna tell you what.
In every case, you wanna have some expertise at the table to look at these guys you're talking about. In this case, we have a traffic consultant we can reach out to. Actually, Larry and I sat with them on Google Street View and looked at the specifics of this area. They have some other thoughts about how to control traffic in that zone, which is where we're talking about. And they did say that a stop sign there, it wouldn't cause accidents or create sort of a defect in traffic pattern generally. I would just noting that there are some places where a stop sign is more likely to increase rear ending or other kinds of issues, so that they don't always rubber stamp stop sign.
All right, any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. 610, resolution 25-101 regarding home rule request for Village of Nyack hotel occupancy tax. Can I get this on the table?
Motion or second.
Either way, these really were jinx on both of you on that. You owe each other Cokes. This is basically extending the existing hotel occupancy tax that would expire at the end of the year. Very grateful for the work that we've gotten help from Bill Weber. We've gotten help from our Assemblyman Pat Carroll about putting this together, and we're very grateful that they've made this a priority to make sure this gets into the budget. We just got to make sure that we approve the request so they can do that. Any comments or questions?
Get the whole rule up there as fast as possible.
Yeah, we've already done it a couple times. They keep changing the request. That's what I was talking about.
So this is, hasn't been brought before the Senate or the Assembly yet. This is a request.
The Senate seems to have very relaxed standards for submission, but the Assembly keeps kicking it back for slightly different.
This hasn't gone on an agenda because the home was not in. Also, if before you mail it out, if you want to scan it, the home rule office will look at it to make sure it's correct before you mail it, so that way they don't have to keep kicking it back to it.
Yeah, I want to say that Pat Carroll's staff, Tom Weason, has been very, very helpful. And he's been coordinating this with us, and Linda has produced and reproduced versions of this resolution. It's in form. I think it's twice that, 4 times. So, for some reason, the typography that they're asking us has to be changed. In this one, the only difference is there's the letter A after the Assembly bill number is a -A on it. Before they didn't ask for that. So now it has the -A, and we have our fingers crossed that it will be through.
Okay, good. Any other comments or questions? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Resolution 6.11, I think it's gonna take some discussion, so I'm gonna hold off on that for now, just because I have some people for some of the new business that I would like to get to. Resolution 612, we're gonna put off until next meeting because with the events of this week, we did not finalize the name. We'll skip departmental reports for now. And I wanted to get to the new business, the Public Arts Advisory Board, and talk about that because we have people here to address that, and I didn't want to have to make them wait around until we get to there. Andy, you want to talk about this advisory board?
So it's one of 2 items on for tonight. One is the draft law that would enable this village board to approve public murals that are exempted from the ARB review. So they specialize in signage. So that's what the public hearing is about. That if you go ahead and approve that, you'll have an approval process, but you won't have a committee to whom you can refer proposals. So if you picture yourself with a busy calendar of all sorts of odds and ends and special events and so on, and then you have wonderful artists coming in and showing you a mural. My hope is that by establishing a public arts advisory committee, you'll have a group that you can refer such a proposal out to, at least for a comment, to guide your thinking about the approval of this public mural. And that was the starting point for looking into this idea. A lot of places have public arts advisory committees to help inventory public art, to look for opportunities for public art, to guide property owners and artists and considerations of ways of working together and so on. And so into that end, and you and I spoke about this, Mary, we reached out to Chris Burns, who has seemingly agreed to chair, if she were to be appointed, a group and help to convene a group whose members this board could appoint as an ad hoc advisory board. It's not written into the village code, like the Parks Commission is or something like that. It could be in the future if the village board wants to do that.
It would have no legal authority to do anything other than to make recommendations to us that we would then make a decision about.
Right, kind of like your business.
The business council, same thing.
It's a good place to have conversations offline, a specialized group of knowledgeable people come back with policy proposals and so on. So that's the idea, and Chris and Bill have looked it over. And also in the back row, we have Alice and Karen, who are the Hudson Valley Mural Arts groups. And I didn't see Debbie behind me, so Debbie. And I just notified them as well because the policy issues on the table for tonight. The idea with the Public Arts Advisory Committee is to at least set it up, not having somebody on it who's directly the sponsor of a piece of public art, because then they simply have to recuse themselves immediately from the discussion. But I think it's inevitable that if you have an active public advisory committee, you're gonna have folks on that committee who are also artists and perhaps involved with projects and all that.
Eventually, yeah, we would have that. And let's just remember, it's not, their scope is not limited to just reviewing mural requests. They might come up with initiatives of bringing public art to the park or the square or other places in Nyack or other kind of beautification projects involving public art, which would be great,
I'll say I'm also looking for support, and sort of guidance and consideration of that application for the New York Forward grant that we have for the gateway improvement, using some kind of design expertise with artistry there. And so we need that kind of support.
So there's no vote on this now. We just wanted to bring it up for discussion about your thoughts. And if there is, then there will be at some point, we'll have in front of us a vote to approve the chair and then approve the members that we identify to be members. We're thinking maybe half a dozen people that will be members
Right.
of the council.
So I just wanted to give Chris Burns a minute to speak to the questions.
I don't speak.
All right.
So you can just see if anybody has any questions for us. So does anybody have any questions for Chris?
You know, I think it's a great idea.
I think we're excited.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, she's a great guy.
Great person for.
She is.
Yeah.
And we're very grateful that you are willing to take on the responsibility and the time and whatnot. It probably won't, hopefully will not be a tremendous amount of time, but it is some time. And anytime someone volunteers to take that on, we're very grateful. So thank you.
It's a great idea to have just somebody, I mean, you guys are so many different tasks, so having people who are, their only obligation is to sort of the whole process and steward the shepherd. It's exciting as to make things are happening. This month is kind of the cohesive thing, so it's grateful for getting to see.
Working with other municipalities, I've seen what works, what doesn't work. This does work in terms of having an ad hoc committee do a lot of that vetting. So it's a good idea.
We're open to see, I'm open to suggestions, so if anybody feel like with, Bill Jackson is part of that really is looking to talk to Andy about having different, architectural, landscaping, but also having people, consumers can live here, who are just where they live, and I have some ideas for them to accept today.
Bill, would it be easier for us just to identify the committees that you're not on? At this point, I mean, I almost said we shouldn't put Bill on this because Bill is just he's doing too much. You got too many things going on. Every time I turn around, there's some Bill Batson project happening with Hopper House or wherever else that got your hands into, digging into.
Well, she's in the same boat, so I said I'd share some with her.
I will say, it was not quite high art, but I did have experience working with Chris, who was one of the judges of the holiday decorations contest. And we drove around in my minivan looking at household decorations on a very rainy day last December. And she did a wonderful job, and actually she was instrumental in us naming the contest and the prize for Levi Burnett, who had always done a wonderful job decorating his home in his memory.
She got a minivan, I got the umbrella.
I mean, that's right, we walked around. She did the business contest, so we walked around. Yeah, we got a rainy day for that as well. We got 2 rainy days for our contest judging. All right, any comments on this?
No.
All right, so it is all generally in favor of the idea? Okay, great. I think that's probably right. Okay, thank you both for being here. If you want to stay for the rest of the meeting, you can. Let's get through our before we get to the public hearing, let's just get through our resolution. So I'll go back to 6.11, resolution 25-102, a resolution approving, is it approving an agreement or it's approving, well, let's call it, we'll talk about that. Approving agreement with cost security services for safety patrol in the village. Can I get this on the table?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, it's not really an agreement, it's approving us entering an agreement.
It's a service agreement.
Do we have the actual agreement?
No, I haven't written it yet.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. We can't really approve an agreement, but approving, let's see, what does the resolve say? Directs the village to implement service agreement. Okay, that's fine. That's it, it's just the title,
It looks,
authorizing, say, instead of saying approving, can we say authorizing?
that's much better, thank you.
Implements a service agreement in a form acceptable to the village attorney, provides scheduled safety patrols focused on the downtown area and the waterfront park, prioritizing evenings when pedestrian shopping and entertainment activities most frequent. So this is something we had, spent the year, we budgeted for this in last year's budget. We budgeted about $40,000 for a quote unquote constable, which was a public safety officer, to work on quality of life issues in the downtown. We could not get the position approved by the county civil service. So we couldn't get a constable, so we ended up having all sorts of issues getting it was spent 6 months. Then finally we had the position of some sort approved. And then we put out for personnel to apply, and we really just did not get anyone who was suitable to apply for the job or to, in one case, to accept the job. And so what we've come down to is that we really do need boots on the ground to walk around, to just be a visible presence in the village. It's something that the style of policing that OPD follows does not involve patrolling on foot. They're car-based and they want to be responsive by being in their cars. So we do have the budget in this for the constable. We'd apply the budget for that to this and get some people working that are trained professionals who will be kind of trying to keep the things from getting out of hand downtown. I'm sorry, down the waterfront, as well as doing a safety patrol of the Main Street Broadway area. Comments?
It's needed, unfortunately. I mean, I don't like the idea of private security, but I know we've tried many other means that have been unsuccessful. And I do recognize that the folks down by the water have been, calling the police, and they've been coming back and forth. It hasn't really been working. So, hopefully this turns things around down there. But overall, I don't feel, I wish that OPD would just do a better job, honestly.
I think,
But I understand why we're doing this.
Yeah, I just had a question, would it be uniform?
Yes, they would be visible.
Visible, so they'll be identifiable.
yes,
Yes.
very much so. I wish this were not necessary as well. It's not something I would want to do, and we will continue to work with OPD about if they could implement more on foot patrols. But it has not been something that we've been able to, coax them into doing up until this date. Any other comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion is unanimous. And has been approved. Okay, we're done with the resolutions. Can I get a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion.
Second. All right, we have not previously had this public hearing open, have we?
Yes,
Oh, we did have it open.
continuation.
It's a continuation, okay. So we've now reopened the public hearing. Andy, why don't you tell us what this is about, what we're discussing, the resolution, the legislation we're discussing here.
So the legislation, which Dennis, helped put together, so thank you, Dennis. Essentially, the beginning of the conversation was if we're gonna have public murals, which we're very excited to see. By law, they would need to go to the Architectural Review Board for approval, because the definition of a sign in NIAC includes something very close to a public mural. And so we identified that as a concern, because that group focuses on commercial signage and wouldn't sort of be prepared to evaluate the kind of community aspects of a mural. So the village board has to have the authority to do its own approval. So we wrote a rule that exempts public murals from the definition of sign that the ARB uses to control signs, and puts it on the village board. And then, working with Hudson Valley Mural Arts and some other artists, develop some criteria for the village board to use when it considers the merits of a mural proposal. And in Hudson Valley Mural Arts Group, they've made a couple presentations to this village board about their mural projects and process. And it kind of speaks to the question of professionalism of design, involvement of neighboring, and sort of engagement with youth and stakeholders in the vicinity who would be seeing this mural. The property owner having obviously to agree to host the mural on private property. The method of application, its durability, its maintenance over time, what to do if it gets vandalized or something like that. All those questions need to be covered in a application for a public mural project that this board would receive. So that's the purpose of this code, is to basically create a process for approval for public murals.
All right, this is a public hearing, so we welcome comments from the public if anybody wants to come up. Or do they leave?
Yeah.
You want one resolution too long?
I think that unfortunately.
Oh.
I think they were confused. I thought that since there was a topic of art, when you said.
Oh,
They thought it was over.
oh, no, why don't you? Can you text them and just let them know that we're actually discussing the thing they stuck around for? Yeah, we held the public hearing for last, since we knew we had a longer discussion about it. Any other public comment from somebody who is not involved in
I
this?
think it's a great idea that we're being distinct from your potential. Because.
Can you use the microphone?
We got you up here, you tried to not, but we got you up.
Really tried.
It's on, I think.
No, it wasn't. Hello? Okay, I think it is a great idea to keep it distinct because it doesn't really, because I understand why they would be considered the same, but there are these other qualities that make them very specifically different. And I think it's smart to create that criteria at the very beginning, because it should be held to the same standards. And maybe make this unpopular, but my understanding of having a store for 2 seconds in NIAC, the Architectural Review Board has a lot of criteria, but I don't see a cohesiveness to signage in the village.
Street
So
signage or business?
business signage for the criteria that I understand that everybody has to go through, that's quite difficult. So I think that is, we don't want to get caught up in that quagmire when it comes to artists moving murals. So I think it's smart. So well done.
Thank you. Thank you. We did go through, remember, the original thought of this was that there would not be village board approval of it, and then you expressed the concern that we've had situations, other jurisdictions, municipalities have had situations where the mural got approved without the village board, and there ended up being some problems.
I will say, I guess. I don't know if it's even a question, if we're establishing this board or this ad hoc group. Would this then put them as that group that would kind of do this oversight for murals, or? Do I have that completely?
I think they would provide guidance.
Okay,
We don't get to say yes or no, but.
right, but you can at least advise us to say like, these are, we vetted these projects, they fit the makeup of the.
But we would come up with protocols, right? How
Actually,
how information comes to us.
the draft law provides for an application process. It creates the factors that the board needs to weigh in consideration of the merits of the bill. And this public advisory would be doing the same thing. And then providing advice to this board as to how to call it.
I guess, could it show, oh wait, never mind, I think the business council does that. I was thinking if it could be structured similar to how we do with the grants for the hotel
Yeah,
tenants.
they make a recommendation and
Okay.
then we approve it, yeah, they don't have any formal.
Right, but that's what essentially this would help do, or am I just mixing so much stuff up?
They're bad.
Never mind, we can stop wasting time
Right,
with
so
amateurs like
the
myself.
law, all it does is exempt public murals from ARB and put them on the village board.
Okay.
And provide for an application process. It tells the applicant what they need to do to make an application. They
Okay.
need to show a design concept, they need to show that they've engaged the community, they need to show the property owners agree. They need to show that they have professional command over the method of application, so. And then you have that package, which will have a picture in it and a narrative. That package, you'll say, hey, this is really cool, let's send it over to the committee to do a little more of an in-depth look at it, maybe talk to the artist, kind of get it.
Okay.
And then provide this board with their considered opinion as to the. Whether you should thumbs up, or thumbs down, or ask for changes.
That
Okay,
makes sense to me, thank you.
we'd asked for public comment on the law, if anybody wants to come up and talk about it. From the group, from the mural street. You don't have to, I know you sat through it, so I wanted to make sure if you wanted to say something, you guys had to say something.
Yeah,
I think it was on, I think it was. No, maybe.
Is that it?
Yeah, I think-
Sorry. So when we spoke about this originally, we thought that it would be good to have either a working group or a committee, as you're calling it, an advisory committee, versus the system of going through the ARB, since that is not necessarily
Right, it's not.
it expedites the process, right? And it gets a group of people together who are responsible for understanding what public art should be and what is appropriate and what's not appropriate. And yeah, I think it's really the best way.
Yeah, and I know that you were reluctant to have there be village board approval of the final draft, but we just couldn't see our way there. So that's the one thing that was changed in the original. Oh, you never, okay, I misunderstood you then, okay.
What I spoke about that day was different than, when we spoke that day with.
Yeah, here,
We talked about a different structure of the committee.
oh,
We
okay,
talked about, we would be on the committee, the building owner would be on the committee, and you and Andrew would be on the committee, we very casual and present. We didn't, we love Chris Burns, this is not about this, we were taken a little bit by surprise today, there's a structure.
it's just clarify that, it's not actually like that. There's still, I think that each mural is going to have its own committee to develop the mural. I think that the advisory committee is there as a resource for you to run ideas by, and they will ultimately be applied, they'll ultimately be the ones that take the first look at it for us and give us a recommendation as to whether we should approve the mural. So you'll be working not for a bunch of you know. People that don't know what they're talking about up here, you'd be talking to people who are actually working artists who will be able to work with you on the vision of each committee, because each mural will have probably its own group of people working on it. But they can all work with the advisory committee. That's the idea. We want the artists, we want the artistic people working on the artistic stuff. And then they can say to us, hey, this is what we think we should do. And then we'll say, looks great to us. And then we vote for it. And that's the idea.
So how involved is the building owner?
I think he or she would be part of the committee.
As we spoke about.
As we spoke about, as the committee that decides on the actual mural, that makes the first decision. And then I think the idea is that the mural committee for that mural does the legwork, identifies the artist, gets some ideas, and then at some point goes to the public art and says, here's what we're thinking about. Do you have any thoughts that you want to, and then they can get some advice about going forward. So you don't get too far ahead of yourself without getting their feedback. That would be the idea. And you'd be talking to artists, but not us. Yeah, I know. You don't want to talk to me.
It's our committee that we initially talked about, right?
It's whoever, I think each mural is an independent project, private project. I mean, even if it gets done through the auspices of the Forward Grant, it's gonna be its own private project that's going to be funded and then is gonna be developed. And I think the idea here is that, ultimately you're gonna need approval from this advisory committee. So it'd be a good idea to have them involved in the beginning to get feedback from them and make sure that you're not going in a direction that's ultimately gonna be a problem. That's all. I think it's gonna be very loose and kind of feel your way through it. But the idea is to get people of good faith working together toward a common aim and not being second guessed by people sitting behind the thing who are saying, I think it should be more blue or something like that, which is what you get from me, because I love blue. So I'd be like, there's not enough blue in this. So we want to try to avoid that as much as possible. All right, you all fine with that?
That
Good.
makes sense.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the work you're doing. It's gonna be an exciting year.
Yeah.
It's gonna be, the fact that we got that grant is really, but when we had that meeting, we were talking about how we're gonna raise the money for this. Well, that we hopefully took care of.
Once we pass this, will those projects then be able to start, or are they waiting? Are you guys
I
like,
think they're gonna have to, well, I think they can start, but in order to do anything really substantial, I'm sure they're gonna be applications to the LPC to approve murals. And so that will be part of that process.
So the funding will be taken care of by the village, is that what I just?
Well,
That's, we need to meet separately on that, it's a pretty detailed discussion.
yeah, you should, that's gonna be all through there's gonna be projects that will be going through the Forward Grant that we received. That's where this is gonna be delegated out to.
Thank you very much.
Yes, come on, public comment.
Okay.
Why is everybody turning my mic off when they're done? Just leave it on.
Hello, hi, Dominic Bill. So I was at that meeting with you,
Yes.
Mandy, and everyone here, we had this conversation. So, my issue is, my concern is that the village board becomes the final say, which is something I don't want. In particular, because it becomes a property rights issue. You're gonna write this in your zoning, and now it becomes a property rights issue. So now you have a definition of a mural. So what's stopping, what are you going to declare or call a mural? If it's a geometrical, if it's two different colors on a building wall, does that constitute a mural? And now you have to dig into defining what your mural has to be, right? Also, what I'm trying to avoid is a government body ruling on a mural, right? Most municipalities use an individual committee for murals. And that committee could be appointed, it could be, the property owners, but it's generally not the elected officials ruling on the mural. And that's pretty standard for obvious reasons. So when we had this conversation, I was concerned that this formation of a committee was going to lead to the village board of trustees becoming the governing body and deciding which mural they will approve. And so that's, because like you said, it's gonna go loose, so you'll have three different versions of a mural perhaps. Or is it only one mural coming to you from that advisory committee and then you're gonna rule on it, yay or nay? So, I think if you're gonna do that, then there's gonna be a lot more writing into your law about how to approve. Right, I mean, it's more than just a color, what's stopping me right now, the village, the architectural review board has nothing to say on color. So I can come back and I can, they can ask about color, but they can't tell me what to put on the building. Right, and so now if you're going to say that the village board of trustees is now going to dictate the approval and say, yes, this is in keeping, this isn't in keeping. What guidelines, to what say, it's vague and arbitrary. And so that's the concern, so I think you should put a committee together, but I don't think the village board of trustees is the deciding factor. It becomes a political thing, which it shouldn't be. That's my comment.
Thank you, Don. Anybody else about comment? All right, any other comments from the board of trustees?
I just wanna, I guess, a comment to your comment. I don't necessarily agree. I don't really want us to be the, hey, this looks good, or hey, this needs more blue or anything like that. I do know, I've just seen from past experience where a mural went up in a community. Community members found it offensive, and then they came to their board to say, why did this all happen? And it was difficult for the board to say, oh, we just passed it off to someone else. Because a lot of people didn't buy that as an excuse as to why this went up. So that's the, I know I guess we're, in this discussion, I wanna just be cognizant of that fact, that that's happened a few times in places that I've worked. And I guess that's what I'm trying to avoid more than anything. Other than that, I guess I don't really care what a mural looks like. I hope it's pretty is more what it is, but that's the one thing that I know was a concern for me personally, was I don't want something to go up that the community is up in arms over, and then they're coming to us asking, how did this happen?
Right. The same way you have a planning board, you live with the planning board's decisions, the architectural review board's decisions, but you're not ruling on those decisions. So I'm not saying that it should just be a unilateral decision by the building owner and the artist. But if you have a committee, right, and you have a committee that represents some appointments and some contributors, then you have a thoughtful process. But to make that be the first step to this body making the decision, which is the elected body, I think is a bad setup.
I think the way to think about the village board in this case is a failsafe. That if something's gone terribly wrong and for whatever reason, what they end up presenting is something that evokes, I mean, what'll happen is, what would probably happen if there was the very unlikely event that the board would have a problem with the mural that's gone through the kind of process that we've already kind of described here, would be if something's gone very awry in that forming process, and then there's some sort of very public response to it, at which point the village board is responsive to the public. And would, what I wanted to avoid, and what I remember saying at that meeting, was I didn't want us to be choosing among options, like you say, that's not our intent. Nor did I want us making, there should be a little bit more shade or something like that. It's up or down. And that's at least the concept, is that this would be up or down, that all of those incremental changes will be adjusted by the committee that creates the mural and in conjunction with the advisory board. That's the idea. All of whom are artist-related people. That's the idea.
I get all of that.
So it's not much different from what you're describing, except for the fact that we have a fail-safe final say to say yay or nay on the mural. And what I will tell you is that that's really not gonna change.
I hear that, it's fine, it makes perfect sense, but also by doing what you're doing as a board, making that final decision, you actually are influencing freedom of speech, right? And you are influencing your property rights. You are creating infringement on property rights de facto. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that
Well, up until this point, a mural would have been considered a sign and would have been governed by the ARB.
No, it's not, no.
It would be.
You would have been in front of the ARB on it.
To this time, up until this time in this village, this is a new interpretation, up until this time, the murals, the interpretation of the code is that a mural had no government. It wasn't a sign, it was never considered a sign. Only recently, maybe with Dennis and the way you're interpreting, but the interpretation of the code up until now.
Okay, all right,
Has always been,
fine.
has always been not a sign, and it's up to the building owner. And I'm not saying you're wrong in trying to create a committee to control, ludicrous murals. I'm just saying, be careful on how you set up structure, because we're creating potentially a problem.
Okay, fair enough. Your points have been noted.
I want to.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, Chris.
Sorry, I don't understand I apologize for not understanding the history of all the, how we got to this point. But as someone new to the conversation, it seems to me the reason you asked me to have this role and to create this committee is because the village is also concerned about the very same thing that you're concerned about. And they don't want to have that kind of power. They don't want to actually be the people who are making those kinds of decisions. And so they're asking, they created this other, so there's a committee that is weighing in on how the murals and having an agreement with the building. And then on top of that, there's now this extra layer that they have intentionally created so that they are not the arbiter for this discussion. So I actually think that they volunteered to have this committee because they don't want to have the kind of power that you think that they are could possibly be guilty of using. That is just my impression, is that they create, I was asked to do this a couple of days ago. So they are also very concerned about what you are concerned about. And I just, as an outsider observer, just want to make you understand that my understanding is that the reason that this committee is being created and I've been asked to have this role is because they are also concerned about the same thing that you're concerned about. So that's just my impression.
I guess I do want to also point out that if with the public money involved, we do have some level of oversight that has to happen, but I don't want it to be as stringent. I don't want it to be stringent either. I do see this as sort of the mirror, but not the
Business council.
yeah, with the hotel tax grant where, it's a presentation, we're seeing what the final culmination of everything is, and we're just like,
Yeah,
good job, everyone, you did great.
it's a good analog. Doesn't have to do with the artistic side, but the analog is that the Nye Business Council solicits and receives the grants to give about $40,000 of public money from the hotel tax to tourism related events. And they vet the events and they evaluate and they make recommendations of the amounts that should be allocated to each event. And then they make a presentation to us. And in the 3 rounds that we've done, we've never changed a dollar that the recommendation that came in. We just up or downed it what the recommendation was, but we wanted to have the final say because there is public money involved in it. All right, any other comments or questions? All right, if we're ready for a vote. Everybody good?
Close the public hearing.
We close the public hearing first, or we take the vote first?
Ready?
We're ready to take a vote. Close the public hearing. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
All right, the public hearing is closed. Can I get a vote up or down on the legislation itself? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The legislation is adopted. Thank you all for coming and for your attention to the issue. Getting back to the agenda, I think we're up to departmental reports. We'll go back to the regular order of the agenda. Departmental reports. Thank you all for being here.
We want to know.
Anything else that we haven't talked about? We talked about a lot.
There's always a lot to talk about, but we still need to get on to our policies and all, group party permits.
Wanna do like your top 3?
Which one?
The groups and parks permit.
Oh. Want to talk about the memo, your memo on that, okay. Let's, do you have other things to report on? Well, because that's really new business, so do you have anything?
I would just be naming a bunch of things that we've been working on. All right,
Just give them your top three.
so crack sealing was finished, it's beautiful.
Yeah. you guys
It's
will-
one of the
yeah.
best ways of spending dollars to preserve pavement. DPW finished painting the crosswalk for the Pride event, which is really.
They did a beautiful job.
Yeah, nice of it. Obviously, the fire on Tuesday consumed an enormous amount of time and effort on those team, DPW, water department, others. Myself, Dan, and me. And so we're still sort of working on some angles related to that. The clerk's office is doing an astounding job shredding old documents every Tuesday when I bring recycling out. Linda's got about 100 pounds of paper in them.
Digitized and on our server before we shred them.
That shredder is burn out pretty soon.
It hurts.
We're working on the shoreline path. Is coming along in terms of design and acceptance, of public comments and so on. But moving that design process along. Did a workshop on that, which takes something we're at. We're working on bidding documents for the roof for the village hall, the HVAC system for village hall. The solar array for village hall, the DPW roof, the solar array for DPW. I'm sorry, the roof group that's been made, that one was awarded by the board, so was a salt shed, so we're making progress on that. We're waiting on engineering designs for our sidewalk project on the north side. That's the First Ave, Marion, Jefferson, Third, and so on. So we're hoping to get those designs ready to go to bid sometime in the next month or so. The same is true for our High Avenue drainage project, the storm drain coming down High Avenue. That's in front of Milford Baptist Church, connecting with Franklin. The beauty of that project is it will cut off a lot of water that's dumping into Niagara from a big pipe that actually starts on Haven, goes through people's backyards, across Sickles, 2 more backyards, across High, 2 more backyards, across Catherine, and then into Niagara, and that's where we get the big sinkholes off of Catherine, a couple weeks ago when it was a big storm. So that project is in design. Go to bid sometimes.
Is that, how is that funded?
That's FEMA. We actually have the money, it's $740,000. It's in the bank.
Right.
And it's ready to be spent as soon as we have a contractor to build it. So some of these we work.
Right, any report for the village attorney?
No, the thing.
So you're on the list. The village clerk, any report for the village clerk? Someday you're gonna surprise me. I swear to God, someday you're gonna surprise
They
me.
did last time.
Do we have anything under old, you did, that's right, under old business?
I don't think I put anything there.
You didn't put anything there? All right, so the new business, we talked about the Public Arts Advisory Board. Let's talk about the park permitting policy. All right, so we have in the packet, there's a memo. It's also, I think, loaded up separately. It's dated June 5th, 2025. It's titled Park Policy and Group Sizes. You want to talk about, this is what we referred to earlier. We got into it when we talked about the weddings. The idea of creating a policy that will give us a little bit more clear guidance in determining, sort of articulating the issues that we actually do address every time we do get one of these requests to use the park. And what Andy's pointing out is that the existing code has 5 criteria that we can issue a permit if the 5 criteria are met. But he then adds another 5 or 6 additional criteria that we should also consider to look at. So do you want to go through them?
Sure, I'd love to do that. And if this village board and those boards in past generations have exercised, I think, really good judgment about how to permit larger events in the park. And there are a number of larger events. And we're talking about the African American Day Parade, the fair that happens, obviously July 4th. The music and events,
Music on the Hudson.
music on the Hudson. These kinds of events, there's a logic to them that makes sense. There's a nice balance of the public access versus special event dynamic we talked about before. So we took a look at that and Dennis helped me with this as well. And thought a little bit about how to kind of codify that balancing act, which this board has been doing all along, to make it explicit in the case of larger group use. So you'll have something to look at and future boards will as well, to look at the factors that have brought into consideration whether or not to grant permits for larger group use programs, events, and so on. And so the factors that Dennis and I were looking at include the following.
Wait, these are the additional ones or the original
The
ones?
additional ones, the existing ones, just to reiterate, the village board has a policy for issuing group permits. And the considerations are already in the law. They involve looking at whether the proposed activity or use of the park will not unreasonably interfere with or detract from the general public enjoyment of the park. And that's what we're thinking about. If you've got so many people using the splash pad at the same time from a special group, you really can't get on that splash pad if you're gonna show up with a couple of kids. Whether or not the proposed activity use will detract from public health, welfare, safety, and recreation. There are limits in terms of the safe capacity of our playground, splash pad, and other facilities, basketball court, facilities, skate park. If you put too many people in there, it's not gonna be safe for the weekend. Obviously, the obvious one is violence, crime, and disorderly conduct. We want to avoid that. And it kind of creates a permitting process. It also speaks of whether there's extraordinary, unusual, or burdensome expense for policing or other operational costs, and figuring out a way to deal with those. So the board, from time to time, there'll be a special event where the event sponsor will need to pay money for DPW coverage, for cleanup, for extra support in various ways. So those are the criteria that already exist. And then given those criteria, the village board has seen fit to permit some larger events in recent years. We had proposed for your consideration 6 more criteria. Whether or not the proposed activity use of the park is primarily for a charitable or scientific cause. I mean, it's like a penguin plunge, which is a charitable event. Whether or not the activity is sponsored by the village, whether or not the activity is charging a fee to participants or attendees, whether that's you have to pay or participate in a group, or you have to pay when you show up to get in on the activity. I'm not saying that any one of these factors should be a deal killer, but they're just part of your kind of review process. Whether or not the proposed activity use of the park has a socio-cultural or educational connection to the village. Is it connected to the village in some way? Whether there's a reasonable alternative to the group's proposed activity or use. In other words, sometimes, yeah, for example, with the Hudson River Day, it's a science activity that's based on taking samples of water. And they have maybe 100 school children down here doing that. They can't do that at Rockville Lake. You know, they can't do that except being on the water on the Hudson River. And finally, whether the proposed activity or use of the park is sponsored by an organization, business, association, civic group, or society that is headquartered within the village. An example might be the yoga festival, which was just proposed tonight. It's a local business coordinating other businesses, and participants both near and far can come and enjoy that for free. But it's significant that it's a local business that's organizing that from within our community. But having said that, we all know that Memorial Park is open to the public. There's no residency requirement in Village Mac like there may be in neighboring towns, which restrict access to the parks based on residency. This village is very open and inviting of tourism and folks coming and enjoying the waterfront. In large numbers, really, it's quite busy down there. The park does have costs to maintain, as you're all aware. You know, there's cleanup, there are occasional acts of vandalism, there's wear and tear on the grass, there's wear and tear on facilities, and we've spent a lot of money keeping it up. And that's our taxpayers in front of that. And so any large group use can be wear and tear from something. I think overall, the park is a very, very happy place. We're not having this policy discussion because there's something bad happening, but just because we want to keep guiding it towards appropriate balancing of the public interests.
Any comments or questions on it? I have one kind of stylistic or conceptual change I would make to the way this is framed. is that the way it's done right now, it's listed as 11 criteria that need to be met. Whereas I don't think that's the way it is. Dennis, I think it's written that way because it's written.
That wasn't our intent.
I know, but I'm just saying that the trustee shall issue a permit when it finds that. And it almost implies that we'd have to make a specific finding as to a positive on all 11. But it may be that there are, I think the first 5 that are written into the statute already are written in a way that if someone violated one of those, that would be it. We're not, no inciting violence, no unreasonable interference with the park, no detracting from promotion of public welfare, no extraordinary burdensome police, or if there's been a reservation of some other day. So all of those things, those first 5 are like, if you violate one of those 5, you're not getting a permit. But you could easily violate F and still get a permit because, okay, it's not for a charitable or scientific cause, but it meets all the other criteria. So what I might do is reframe either all 10 or all 11, or reframe the next 6 as being a balancing test. Like in addition to satisfying the first 5 factors, the board can weigh these following criteria: whether the proposed activity is primarily for charitable or scientific cause, whether the use is for a village-sponsored event, whether the group's organizer is not charging a fee, whether as a socioeconomic. In other words, it's a balancing test. The last 6 elements are really a balancing. They're not a yes, no, that you have to satisfy all of them in order to get your permit. You in fact might not satisfy any of them and still get your permit if you didn't unreasonably interfere, et cetera, et cetera. So I might make it, as we draft it, I might make it specific, I think the first 5 are a little different than the next 6. But you could also rewrite the whole thing just to be, these are all criteria to weigh.
So secondary.
Yeah,
I didn't know what you were looking at. I pulled up what I drafted.
well, I'm looking at the memo.
Yeah, I didn't draft it now. But the way I wrote it was more the way that you're suggesting.
Okay,
That's not, Andy, I guess.
okay, then we're in
The
agreement.
word is, for recognizable groups of at least 10, but not more than 40 persons, the village clerk shall issue a permit hereon